In the 1970s, acclaimed mathematician Anatoly Fomenko attempted to solve a long-standing problem with the celestial mechanics of the moon. Between the years 800 BC and 1000 AD, the moon, according to classical texts, mysteriously sped up and slowed down. The official explanation? An unknown extra-gravitational force must have caused this bizarre behavior. But Fomenko had another hypothesis. He suspected that the motion of the moon was consistent and that it was the ancient texts that were inaccurate all along. Could this disparity between the recorded history and the actual history of lunar events be the result of innocent mistakes made by ancient chroniclers? Or was this the result of an elaborate forgery? To answer these questions, Fomenko would use mathematics to objectively analyze over 800 ancient texts. According to Fomenko, the truth could be computed. When comparing today's geosynchronous satellite maps to the maps from the 1500s, it's easy to see the inaccuracies of early cartographers. But when comparing maps from the 1500s to maps before the 1400s, something incredible happens. The earlier maps have more detail and are more accurate than their later versions. Logic would suggest that the maps would increase in accuracy and detail as time went forward, not the reverse. Details like rivers and streams, whether the map was flat, global, or regional, were meticulously cataloged. By categorizing features of maps from different time periods, Fomenko could show that with each new version, abnormal features would subside, but the exact shape of coastlines would remain. One of the most glaring examples of this contradiction is the map supposedly made by Ptolemy in 200 AD. How is it possible that this ancient map is as accurate as maps made in the 1400s, during the time of Columbus? Could it be that Ptolemy's map was actually made in the 1400s? And if this is the case, then exactly why are we told Ptolemy ever existed 1400 years earlier than he did? Another one of Fomenko's methods for determining the truth about our timeline was the statistical analysis of over 800 ancient and classical texts. By comparing data points from uniquely different books, Fomenko could determine whether two books were talking about the same historical events. Fomenko described this process like determining whether two keys can open the same lock. If you don't have the lock, you can only line up the profiles of the teeth of the keys. If they match, then you know they have been made for the same lock. Fomenko would proceed to create a table of data points he could apply to any book or document. Data like the number of years being written about. 1 year would represent one segment. Then he would determine the number of lines, words, letters, and symbols for that particular segment. Once this data was categorized, Fomenko could generate visual graphs depicting the similarities or differences between two independent documents. What he found was incredible. Seemingly different books from different time periods appeared to depict the same events. How could this be possible? Fomenko refined his analysis to include form codes for every ruler depicted in these old books. The codes contained info like gender, lifespan, duration of reign, status, i.e. emperor, military ruler, religious leader, cause of death, natural disasters, wars, and astronomical phenomena. The result of this painstaking work suggested that multiple dynasties across different time periods were eerily similar, if not exactly the same. Fomenko would label these duplicate dynasties phantoms. He discovered a few dozen of these phantom dynasties, which suggested to Fomenko that the stories of our past had been seriously edited and maybe even fabricated from whole cloth. Fomenko now had statistical evidence that suggested forgeries on a massive scale took place during the time period of the Middle Ages. In fact, there is no original source material that can be reliably dated to before 900 AD. For the next 6 years, Fomenko set out to depict these phantom dynasties on paper. He called it the Global Chronological Map, and at over 19 meters in length, this massive linear timeline would represent events from 4000 BC to 2000 AD. Fomenko's map showed that there have been 3 major time shifts: 300 years, 1000 years, and 1800 years. According to Fomenko, the forgers of the Middle Ages managed to copy and paste 2000 years of phantom time into our chronology. Could our ancient past be the work of talented forgers? For Fomenko, the answer was yes, but he still had more evidence to collect. So he focused his investigation on the oldest records known to man, the zodiacs. And what the zodiacs revealed about our true history would turn out to be earth-shattering.